They say empty vessels make the loudest noise, and yet some people carry the world in silence. They speak less about others, and the world quietly mistakes them for indifference or even judgment. But is quietness truly absence or a deeper rhythm of understanding? In a society obsessed with whispers and shared secrets, choosing not to gossip becomes a rare form of courage. It is a silent rebellion against the noise, a conscious decision to protect not only others, but the self. Why do some people feel no thrill in repeating what they hear? Why does the impulse to speak about others' lives feel like friction to them? Beneath this quiet lies an intricate web of thought, empathy, and self-awareness, a psychological landscape most never pause to explore. In the next minutes, we will journey into the minds of those who never gossip, uncovering the roots of their restraint, the science behind their silence, and the quiet power it wields. Let's begin.
They say that conversation is the lifeblood of connection, and yet, within every circle, there are voices that speak without care, voices that trade in secrets and shadows. To some, this is simply social glue, harmless, even necessary. But for those who never gossip, it feels like a friction against the soul. It is uncomfortable, even corrosive, to watch others' lives become casual chatter. This is the first layer of understanding, the recognition that gossip is not a neutral act. It carries weight, subtle or heavy, for both the speaker and the listener. You may have noticed it in yourself, the hesitation before repeating a story, the sudden awareness of a word you wish you had kept. People who never gossip experience this awareness constantly. Their silence is not absence, it is a conscious presence. They perceive what is unsaid, and the spaces between words become meaningful. In social settings, this quiet can feel isolating. A joke at someone else's expense, a whispered critique, a shared rumor, all of it passes through their consciousness, yet they remain untouched outwardly. And this is often misunderstood. People mistake discretion for disinterest, for judgment, or even for weakness. But the truth is deeper. Restraint requires observation, reflection, and emotional clarity. It is an internal rhythm that others rarely notice, but one that shapes the way they inhabit the world. Gossip, after all, thrives on impulse. It offers a fleeting sense of belonging, a rush of superiority, or the illusion of control. The quiet observer, however, feels the subtle erosion this brings, not outwardly, but inwardly. They sense how it fractures trust, stains intimacy, and leaves an echo of discomfort that lingers long after the words have faded. Their silence is not a void, but a protective barrier, a choice to preserve the integrity of others and of themselves. Recognition is the first step toward understanding this mindset. It is noticing that restraint is not passive, but active. It is acknowledging the tension between social expectation and personal ethics, and choosing the latter without need for approval. In these moments, a person realizes that silence is a rare form of courage. It is not emptiness, it is fullness, a fullness of attention, of care, of awareness. And so begins the journey, observing the world without consuming it, witnessing without repeating, holding what is entrusted in quiet hands. This is the quiet recognition, the gentle awakening to the invisible strength of restraint.
Silence rarely emerges from nowhere. It grows from layers of experience, shaping itself quietly in the background of a life. For those who never gossip, the roots of their restraint often stretch deep into childhood memories, cultural rhythms, and the subtle moral scaffolding of early life. It begins in moments when words were observed, not repeated, and lessons were absorbed without fanfare. Perhaps it was an early awareness of the consequences of words, a story carelessly shared that fractured trust, or a secret whispered in confidence that was broken. These moments leave small imprints, like river sediment slowly layering over time. The quiet mind notices. It learns that speech carries responsibility, that some truths are too fragile to carry lightly. The restraint becomes intuitive, an automatic safeguard against harm, both to others and the self. Family and culture further weave their threads into this fabric. In some households, discretion is honored almost instinctively. Respect is measured not by volume, but by thoughtfulness. In others, the practice of observing before speaking may emerge from subtle modeling, watching elders choose words carefully, noting how silence preserves dignity. These patterns are absorbed without conscious effort, becoming a foundation for the adult psyche. Moral frameworks, too, guide the quiet. When one values empathy over judgment and integrity over approval, the temptation to repeat what is seen or heard diminishes. Gossip becomes a kind of friction, a mismatch between personal ethics and social expectation. And for some, it is spiritual, a quiet reverence for the sanctity of human experience, a recognition that each life is a story not theirs to edit or share. Even temperament plays a role. Some minds are naturally reflective, less impulsive, and more sensitive to emotional resonance. To these individuals, the mere act of speaking about another's life can feel like disturbing a still pond, ripples that cannot be undone. They inhabit the world with a heightened awareness of emotional currents, and the choice not to gossip is simply aligned with the flow of their inner rhythm. In understanding these roots, we see that restraint is not limitation. It is cultivated strength, often invisible yet profoundly influential. It is the silent undercurrent that guides interaction, shapes perception, and preserves trust. The quiet observer is not merely refraining, they are expressing a deep alignment with values, empathy, and emotional foresight. Their silence is an inheritance of observation, reflection, and a respect for life's fragile architecture.
There is a rhythm within the mind, an invisible circuitry that dictates how words are chosen, weighed, and released. For those who never gossip, this rhythm is attuned to subtle cues most people overlook. Neuroscience shows us that the human brain is wired for social connection, and gossip, though often dismissed, activates regions associated with reward, like the ventral striatum. It creates a temporary sense of pleasure, belonging, and validation. Yet for some, this activation feels discordant, even uncomfortable. Empathy, one of the most potent neural pathways, often explains the difference. Those who refrain from gossip typically have heightened sensitivity to others' emotions. The mirror neurons, which allow us to feel what another person feels, respond not only to actions, but to the ripple effects of speech. When they witness a story about someone's vulnerability, the discomfort is not abstract, it resonates. It triggers an internal response akin to watching a delicate structure tremble under unnecessary pressure. Sharing it, even subtly, becomes a violation of that internal harmony. Cognitive control also plays a role. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of judgment, planning, and impulse inhibition, is more engaged in individuals who habitually choose silence. They can pause before repeating, weighing the potential consequences, not just socially, but morally. While others may act on fleeting impulses, they experience a natural friction between instinct and ethics. This friction is not effortful, it is instinctive, a silent calibration that maintains integrity in real-time interactions. Psychologists also note the link between values and neurological patterns. People who prioritize trust, discretion, and relational safety demonstrate what some studies call prosocial restraint. It is a subtle yet measurable tendency to inhibit self-serving impulses for the sake of relational or moral harmony. In practical terms, gossip triggers a minor cognitive dissonance, a quiet alarm that prevents speech from straying beyond ethical bounds. Even emotional memory matters. The hippocampus, which encodes experiences, stores moments of trust broken, friendships fractured, and confidences betrayed. For those attuned to these lessons, the memory itself serves as a quiet deterrent. Each unspoken word is a conscious alignment with the internalized architecture of empathy and foresight. In essence, the science of silence is the science of awareness, an interplay of neural reward, empathy, impulse control, and moral cognition. Choosing not to gossip is not simply willpower. It is the natural expression of a brain finely tuned to connection, care, and consequence. Their quiet is a map, drawn by neurons, experience, and conscience, a living testament to the invisible architecture of human understanding. Even the most steadfast silence is not immune to pressure. Within the mind of someone who never gossips, a quiet tension often simmers beneath the surface, a subtle conflict between social expectation and personal ethics. Gossip surrounds them like a river current, persistent and sometimes seductive. It offers belonging, laughter, a fleeting sense of control, and yet the impulse to speak feels like friction against the very principles that define them. This tension is not dramatic or explosive. It is a soft, persistent questioning. Is it safe to remain silent? Will I appear distant, indifferent, even cold? Will the connection unravel if I do not participate? These are the moments when silence is tested, when restraint becomes an act of courage rather than comfort. The choice to stay quiet is quietly revolutionary, a refusal to surrender to the pull of conformity. Internal resistance can also emerge from curiosity. The mind notices patterns, hears snippets, and wonders what would happen if it joined the chorus. But for those who hold themselves to a higher standard of empathy and respect, curiosity does not equal action. Instead, it becomes reflection. They weigh the potential harm against the immediate gratification of sharing, and often the scale tips toward preservation of trust, dignity, and relational integrity. Gossip can also trigger self-doubt. In a culture that rewards talkativeness, silence can feel alien, even isolating. The quiet observer may ask themselves, am I missing a social cue? Am I failing to connect? And yet, over time, they learn that the discomfort is temporary, while the consequences of speech, broken trust, whispered regrets, unseen wounds, can linger indefinitely. This internal struggle illuminates the hidden strength behind restraint. It is not simply a lack of impulse. It is a conscious negotiation within the self, a dialogue between curiosity, empathy, and morality. Every unspoken word is a small act of resistance against the noise, a quiet commitment to emotional responsibility. Understanding this inner conflict allows us to see silence as dynamic, not passive. It is a terrain of careful navigation where the mind continuously measures, reflects, and chooses integrity over immediacy. The resistance is not weakness. It is evidence of awareness, of a finely tuned moral compass, and of a mind learning to harmonize desire, ethics, and human connection.
There is a quiet clarity that comes with time, a gentle dawning of understanding that silence is not absence, but presence. For those who never gossip, there are moments, often subtle, almost imperceptible, when the value of restraint crystallizes. It is rarely a loud epiphany. Rather, it is a soft illumination, like sunlight filtering through morning mist, revealing the contours of trust, respect, and self-awareness that gossip would otherwise blur. These moments often arise unexpectedly. Perhaps it is in witnessing the consequences of careless words, a friendship fractured, a reputation damaged, a secret betrayed. The observer notes how quickly laughter can turn into regret, and how casual remarks carry ripples far beyond their origin. In this awareness, silence is no longer just a choice. It becomes a lens through which the world is seen more clearly. Sometimes the realization emerges in reflection, when past interactions replay quietly in memory. The mind recognizes patterns, moments when speaking would have deepened misunderstandings, or when restraint preserved dignity. There is an unexpected satisfaction in this awareness, not pride, but a soft confirmation that care has been taken, that the boundaries of ethics and empathy have been honored. In social spaces, this clarity also transforms perception. Silence becomes a subtle language of its own. People who never gossip notice the nuance in words, the unspoken vulnerabilities in gestures, the small fissures where trust might be at risk. In recognizing the value of observation over repetition, they cultivate a presence that is both protective and profound. Their quiet becomes a form of communication, a gentle force that holds the relational fabric together rather than tearing it apart. The beauty of these moments lies in their simplicity. There is no external validation, no applause. The reward is internal, a sense of integrity, a preservation of human dignity, and a deepened awareness of the emotional currents surrounding them. Each unspoken word is a testament to this insight, a quiet declaration that some stories are sacred, not to be traded or consumed. Ultimately, the realization is not about restraint alone. It is about awakening to the subtle power of choice, to witness without repeating, to honor without exposing, to listen without consuming. These are the moments when silence reveals its true nature, not as a void, but as a space of depth, reflection, and quiet wisdom.
Choosing silence is one thing. Living it consistently is another. Over time, the restraint of those who never gossip begins to integrate into the very way they move through the world. It shapes not just what they say, but how they perceive, respond, and relate. Their silence becomes a compass, guiding interaction with both intention and care. In relationships, this integration is subtle yet powerful. They listen with presence, noticing details that others might miss. The pause before speaking allows them to weigh words with precision, offering responses that are considered rather than reactive. Trust grows naturally around them, not because they are distant, but because others sense that what is shared will remain honored. Silence, in this way, becomes a vessel for reliability and safety. Internally, integration fosters a profound sense of coherence. The friction between impulse and ethics diminishes as restraint becomes habitual, almost instinctive. There is no struggle, no inner debate. It simply aligns with the architecture of their mind. The act of withholding judgment, of preserving confidences, strengthens emotional resilience and fosters clarity of thought. Their mental landscape becomes less cluttered by unnecessary drama, more attuned to what truly matters. The world around them begins to reflect this quiet strength. Observers may notice a calm presence, a gentle steadiness, or an intuitive understanding that doesn't require explanation. People are drawn to this reliability, even if they cannot name it. In professional spaces, social circles, and family interactions, the habit of non-gossip creates an unseen but palpable foundation of integrity. Yet integration is never about perfection. Temptations, curiosity, and occasional discomfort still arise. What changes is the response. The quiet mind no longer reacts impulsively, but uses these moments to reinforce values and awareness. It becomes a continuous practice of emotional alignment, where silence is not passive withdrawal, but active engagement with the world in its most thoughtful form. Ultimately, integration transforms silence from a behavior into a way of being. It merges the inner moral compass with external conduct, creating harmony between thought, feeling, and action. The quiet observer is no longer simply resisting. They are shaping the flow of their relationships, their thoughts, and their emotional landscape. Silence becomes their language, their art, and their anchor in a world often carried away by noise.
Silence is often mistaken for emptiness, yet for those who never gossip, it is more like a river, deep, steady, and quietly shaping the land around it. Words are sediment, flowing downstream, and the decision to hold them back allows the river to remain clear, reflecting light rather than stirring mud. In this space, observation becomes art, and listening becomes a craft. Their restraint is not absence of emotion, but presence of depth. Each unspoken story is a brushstroke on an invisible canvas, shaping the contours of empathy, trust, and awareness. Like a garden left to grow in careful order, silence cultivates space for reflection. It nurtures patience, compassion, and subtle understanding, allowing relationships to flourish without unnecessary disruption. Consider the contrast. Gossip is like wildfire, spreading quickly, consuming context, and leaving ash where clarity once lived. Silence, on the other hand, is the slow erosion of rock by water, a persistent, gentle shaping that takes time but leaves permanence. The quiet observer moves through life with this steady rhythm, sensing the fragility of words, the weight of stories, and the tender architecture of human experience. There is also a luminous polity in their presence. Like a lantern held behind glass, their inner light is not broadcast for attention, but glows steadily, illuminating the space for those who notice. People may not always name it, yet they feel it, a sense of calm, integrity, and subtle wisdom. Silence in this sense becomes relational poetry, an unspoken communication that transcends words. And the quiet observer often recognizes their own reflection in others, the moments when restraint protects, when discretion honors dignity, when attention listens without judgment. Each choice to remain silent is a verse in an ongoing narrative of human care, a reminder that some truths are sacred simply because they are entrusted. In the poetry of silence, restraint is not a chain, but a form of freedom. It is the freedom to honor life as it is, to preserve trust, and to cultivate clarity in a world prone to noise. Each day becomes a meditation, each interaction an opportunity to practice the quiet art of presence. And in this reflective stillness, they find something rare, the serenity of a mind aligned, the integrity of a heart unshaken, and the subtle, enduring beauty of holding space without words.
If this reflection has stirred something quiet inside you, you are not alone. There is a subtle tribe of observers, listeners, and those who hold their words with care. They move through the world gently, not because they are distant or disinterested, but because they understand the weight of human experience. Their silence is not empty. It is attentive, protective, and deeply human.
Choosing not to gossip is not a sign of weakness, nor a refusal to engage. It is an embrace of responsibility, a conscious alignment with empathy and integrity. In moments of quiet, these individuals cultivate trust, preserve dignity, and model the often unseen power of discretion. Their presence invites others to consider the impact of words, to reflect before speaking, and to honor the sacredness of private moments. In community, silence can feel isolating, but it need not be lonely. If you resonate with this reflection, you are part of a subtle movement, a recognition that connection is not measured in repetition, but in respect. Your restraint holds space for others, and in doing so creates a network of trust that often goes unnoticed, but is profoundly felt. If you'd like to stay connected, this channel offers a place where we explore the hidden corners of the human heart, a space to reflect, witness, and honor the quiet rhythms of life. Sharing your thoughts in the comments is entirely optional, but your words may help someone else feel less alone. Each reflection, each recognition, is a gentle reminder that our inner worlds are seen, even when unspoken. Remember, silence is not absence, it is presence. It is not distance, it is careful closeness. It is not weakness, it is strength. And in the quiet, there is understanding, there is empathy, there is a steady grace that carries us forward. Take care of yourself. You deserve gentleness. You deserve to heal.